ability, and he opens the ball game with a handoff to Chris Johnstone for a pickup of about 8 yards. The Bombers feel that they might be able to run the ball against Saskatchewan.
Well, here's the offensive lineup, and it's going to be led by Chris Walby, who's missed several games with a torn bicep, and they're happy to have him back in at that right tackle position.
And these are the people that McDougall will be working with. The new addition is Fred Ward at the slot back. He takes over from Gerald Alphen, who was the Bombers' leading receiver, but has been released. On the second down play, McDougall fakes inside, overthrows Fred Ward. There's also a penalty flag on the play. McDougall had Ward open in the flat to the left, but he overthrew him, but we'll wait for the penalty call. Ken Lazaruk is the man in charge this afternoon.
We're going to get an offensive interference against Winnipeg.
Forward pass interference. Winnipeg #1. Decline. Third down.
Jamie Holland, who is playing the wide receiver position on the other side of the field, was guilty of the interference offensively, so the Saskatchewan Roughriders naturally will decline the penalty, and that means Bob Cameron will come in to punt on third down.
Well, Don, you're out at midfield. Your offense is ranked last in the league. It couldn't be too early to gamble in the game. When you need to score some points, you're only averaging a little over 17 a game. This wouldn't be a bad time for a fake.
Bob Cameron, the Iron Man of the CFL. This is his 263rd consecutive game. Penalty flag on the play. The Bombers took too long to get the play underway. It appears to be a violation against Winnipeg, so Cameron will back up 5 yards.
Well, with the wind at his back, this may aid him in being able to...
Winnipeg, number 38, 5-yard penalty, still third down.
To try to angle the ball out inside the 20-yard line. Look for him to kick it towards the right hash, that side of the field, try to limit the return.
Come on now. Assistant coach John Payne, a former head coach with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Winnipeg's offensive line has been a major concern this year for John Payne, a veteran CFL coach. They hope that with the return of Chris Walby, they will be a little more consistent up front this afternoon against Saskatchewan in this rematch. They were certainly porous at Taylor Field, giving up 7 quarterback sacks. Excellent kick by Cameron, and the Riders are going to let it bounce through the end zone. So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are first on the board. An 80-yard single by Bob Cameron to put Winnipeg on the board with 13:23 remaining in this opening quarter.
Don, you think about all the success that Bob Cameron has had throughout his CFL career. He has punted for well over 83 kilometers in punting yardage since he's been here with the Blue Bombers.
Warren Jones, the starting quarterback. One number he would like to see change, his touchdown to interception ratio. He has thrown one more interception than he has been able to put the ball into the end zone. He hands off to Joseph, and Joseph picks up about 2 yards. Joseph, since being acquired by Saskatchewan from Ottawa, has played very well for Saskatchewan, and he could run for 1,000 yards this year. Pete Shorts is added to the roster for this game. The first time they have had an import playing along the offensive line since Don Swafford was there back in 1983. Ray Yock moves into a wide receiver position. Albert Turner has an injury. Troy Dickey has dressed, but Yock is starting. Pass over the middle, incomplete. I believe I said Ray Yock. That's the coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the father of Joey Yock. Ray Elgard is the man that Warren Jones was looking for in the second down play. There's Ray Yock.
Well, he was on your mind. You guys spent so much time together prior to the game, getting inside his head and finding out what Saskatchewan hoped to do this afternoon against Winnipeg. Looked like Winnipeg had got into that neutral zone a little prematurely, but were they drawing off? We're going to get offsetting penalties here, and we'll just play this down over. Oh, got an interference thrown in there, so Saskatchewan will come up on the short end of this one.
Cal Murphy feels that his team will rebound from the humiliation last week at Taylor Field in Regina. 56-4 was the score. It's not the first time the Bombers have gone to Taylor Field on Labor Day and been embarrassed and then come back home and won the second game quite handily. As a matter of fact, in 1990, when Winnipeg went to the Grey Cup, they lost 55-11 at Taylor Field. In the rematch, won 36-7 at Winnipeg Stadium.
Well, Cal has always been accustomed to being on the opposite end of those long scores. Here with the Bombers for years, they had ran up the score on opposing teams.
Offside. Winnipeg. Legal procedure. Saskatchewan. Forward pass interference against Saskatchewan, number 81. Go back 10 yards. Second down, repeat it.
You know, I like doing a game with Ken Lazarus referees because he is so clear in his explanation to the fans of the penalties, and normally the game is a lot quicker.
A couple of strange calls. It's not often you see offensive pass interference. 2 calls this early in a football game. Second and 18. Jones rolls out. He's in trouble. He was looking for Dickey. It's incomplete. James Jefferson was defending against Dickey, so Saskatchewan will be forced to kick it away. Jones, during the course of the Labor Day game at Taylor Field, a little muscle flexing in front of the Winnipeg bench. Coach Ray Yock said, I spoke to him about it. I addressed the situation. I assure you it won't be happening again.
Well, when you get caught up in the emotion of the moments, and, you know, when Warren signed as a free agent in the offseason with Winnipeg, he was hoping to be the quarterback here. But his untimely release that he felt from this organization, this was a chance for a little bit of redemption.
Brent Matic stands back at his own 12-yard line. And there is a penalty flag, and I think this is going to be a time count violation this time. It was a legal procedure the last time against Winnipeg.
Saskatchewan, number 13, 5-yard penalty, still third down.
So Matic will move 5 yards further back to kick into the strong south wind.
I got 97. Still the same. In front, Winnipeg. Block in front.
And not surprisingly, Matic is going to concede the safety touch. Forced out the back end of the end zone by Brendan Rodgers. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have almost equaled their point total from Sunday. The stop. And this is the way the Saskatchewan Roughriders line up defensively. A 3-man rush from Robinson, Edwards, and Alexander. Ron Getz returns after missing a game with a knee injury to the linebacking core. And Randall made his debut last week against Winnipeg and returned an interception for a touchdown on the final play of the first half. First and 10, Winnipeg from the 48-yard line. Johnstone with a big hole. He actually ran into one of the officials, but still managed to pick up very close to a first down. Van Bellingham and Rodgers were both in on the stop.
Well, just a straight dive play up the middle. Chris Johnstone, seldom used fullback of the Bombers, gets that quick hitter right up the middle. Saskatchewan hasn't been accustomed to seeing a fullback touch the football. 11 yards on first down.
Well, the Bombers are following their game plan. They intended to come out trying to run the football against Saskatchewan. There's the fake to Johnstone, and McDougall will keep, and he'll get up to the Saskatchewan 43-yard line.
You know, coming out establishing a running game for the Bombers is a big plus for them. They gave up 7 sacks in Saskatchewan last week, and they had less than 30 yards rushing in the first half. So to slow down that pass rush of Saskatchewan, you need to develop your running game, and they've been effective here in the first quarter.
Second down, Jimmy.
Second and 2 for Winnipeg after the 8-yard gallop by McDougall. McDougall gives to Johnston again, and he's got another Winnipeg first down. I think if Saskatchewan was preparing for a ground game, they expected Blaze Bryant to be lugging the ball, not Chris Johnstone.
Well, what you're getting with Johnstone carrying the ball is you're getting that quick hitter. You don't give the defensive lineman time to react. They can't get off their blocks quick enough. Johnstone is right on top of him. He's up in the hole, and he's picking up 5 to 7 yards per clip.
First and 10, Winnipeg from the Saskatchewan 38. The Bombers leading 3-0 with 8:38 remaining in the opening quarter. McDougall fakes, and he'll keep himself. When you have a mobile quarterback, some good things happen, and that's what Mike Kelly, the offensive coordinator, was looking for from Kevin McDougal.
Well, Kevin McDougal was a Veer quarterback in college, and you're going to get him here. He's going to come down the line. Jerson is going to penetrate. He's going to get kicked out, and that's where McDougal will read right there. And as he brings it up the field, great execution of the Veer option by Kevin McDougal, getting down inside the 30-yard line.
From the Saskatchewan 27, 1st and 10. There seems to be a mix-up, and that is probably due to the lack of preparation McDougal has had in running the Winnipeg offense.
Don, you alluded to it in the opening that he had been force-fed the playbook, and this is one of the new things is the Veer option that they brought in the game. You see him checking his wristband right there, conferring with the sideline, making sure they're on the same page.
2nd and 10 Winnipeg from the Saskatchewan 27. Again, Holland splits wide to the left. Hand off to Blaze Bryant. He'll get a first down. He takes it down to the Saskatchewan 15-yard line.
Chris Walby, you can see him having problems with his right arm, but watch the down block by Chris Walby as he comes in, knocks off the linebacker, allowing Blaze Bryant to get around the corner and pick up close to 10 yards once again on 2nd down.
Walby appears to be favoring his right arm.
Well, he had indicated that he was going to have problems with that right arm. You can see him right now trying to flex it. It is bothering Chris quite a bit.
A torn tendon on the bicep suffered on August the 12th against Birmingham kept him out of the lineup for 4 games.
It is a similar type injury to quarterback Doug Flutie suffered in Calgary. And when you think about the pressure that an offensive lineman has to put on his arm, such as Chris Walby, in warding off defenders, that can be very painful.
Winnipeg 1st and 10. The ball just outside the Saskatchewan 16-yard line. Johnstone the ball carrier, and he drives straight ahead for about 3 yards. 6:49 remaining in the opening quarter. Winnipeg in front by a score of 3-0. LeBrant Robinson made the tackle.
This has been a very efficient drive for Winnipeg's offense, really establishing their ground game, and it's really not forced the young quarterback McDougal into any tough situations other than the 1 second and long, and they were able to pick up the first down on the Bryant run. This will build up his confidence level as the game continues on.
2nd and 7. Mike Kelly was saying one thing McDougal does is throw the hot well because of his quick release. But he's going to stick to the ground game. And Blaze Bryant will only get a couple of yards, and that undoubtedly will mean Troy Westwood will come into the ball game to attempt a field goal.
That's a very questionable play call when you're down in the red zone, knowing that you need to pick up 7. You have a reduced field to work on, that you might want to use his mobility, try to get him outside the pocket, give him the run pass option. That time they stayed with the run, and they have to settle for a Westwood field goal attempt.
This should certainly be within the range of Troy Westwood. From inside the 30-yard line this year, he has been flawless, and this will be an 18-yard attempt.
Back up. Brooksy, back up there. You can just sit.
The fake and the toss to Westwood. Will he score? Yes! You think he's a happy young man? Westwood took the toss from Cameron and went in untouched.
Great play call by Cal Murphy from the Winnipeg sideline. Troy Westwood and Bob Cameron executed perfectly. What you get is you have to get the sail on the corner. And you're going to get it right here. You're going to get a sail that's going to come down. Cameron's going to pitch it back to Westwood. He's going to come back out backside. Perfect execution. Everyone went for the field goal attempt.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, with Troy Westwood taking it in, now have a 10-0 lead.
Perfect job. As you see once again, Westwood clears around the corner. He is off to the races. He has given it all he got. Hits the flag. Touchdown.
And Gary Rogers was completely sold on the fake. Following the safety touch, the Bombers marched 75 yards in 11 plays with Troy Westwood scoring the touchdown. And Aaron Ruffin is going to let this ball sail through the end zone untouched. Veteran Bob Cameron did an excellent job of selling the fake on the Westwood run into the end zone. He simply flipped that ball back so softly to Westwood.
Well, these two have worked so well together over the years. As you see, Bob Cameron goes down, he places the ball on the ground, flicks it right over his right shoulder. Westwood started the stride like he was going to kick the ball and scores Winnipeg's 6th rushing touchdown of the season. Great execution by special team play. Big break for the Bombers.
Westwood writes songs and sings with a group called Hawk and Eagle. I imagine he will incorporate that touchdown run into one of his new songs.
Well, it would be safe to say he glided around the corner.
Jones operates from the shotgun. Pass is complete to Donald Narcisse, and that will, Joseph. Joseph taking the swing pass out of the backfield for a first down. And this is the way the Bombers line up defensively. Leonard Johnson playing the one-end position. Kelly Rush back in the lineup. Greg Clark has had a big year at the linebacking position for Winnipeg. And Darius Watson starts at a right halfback position, replacing Burress. Handoff inside to Joseph. And Joseph is stopped right at the line of scrimmage. Kelly Rush was in on the stop. Rush is quite an interesting individual. He's had a difficult time with his alarm clock. He's been late for numerous practices, team meetings. He's even missed a few flights.
Well, it's been questioned whether he even owns one, but you know, Kelly is one of those free spirits, and you know, he's a great talent, and Cal Murphy has been willing to stick with this young man, hoping that his mentality will reach his game level.
Intended for Joseph, a little swing pass coming out of the backfield on second down. And that misfires, so with 4 minutes remaining in the opening quarter, Winnipeg will get the ball back.
The wind is really picking up here at the stadium. As you saw that pass, a simple swing route out of the backfield to Joseph. He threw that ball on a line, but that ball was caught by the wind, and it was pushed right behind Joseph because he led him perfectly. He just didn't compensate for the wind factor.
It has increased in velocity since the teams took the field for their pregame warm-up. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders are operating against that strong south wind in this opening quarter, and they trail by a score of 10-0.
And Maddich is going to have to keep the ball low, otherwise it will come right back in his face.
Ball's gone.
Pretty good kick into the wind. Ward takes it. Ward trying to get to the outside. He has the speed, but he's hauled down by Finlay. Finlay reached out with one hand to bring him down at the 50-yard line. Winnipeg will be 1st and 10 when we return. Kevin McDougall, the rookie quarterback, didn't do anything spectacular on the last Winnipeg possession, but he did keep the drive going. And of course, a little deceit resulted in the Bomber touchdown on a field goal attempt with Troy Westwood scoring.
I think the key to that drive, Don, is that he was able to get his team successfully down in the red zone.
1st and 10 Winnipeg. The ball is at the 50-yard line. Quick pass over the middle, and Gerald Wilcox is on the receiving end, close to a first down at the 50-yard line. This has not been a great year for Gerald Wilcox. He has had some injury problems, but coming into this game had only been on the receiving end of 18 passes.
Well, you're going to look at Kenny Brown, the rookie left offensive tackle right there. He is filling the position that was formerly filled by Miles Garrell, who has been moved to right guard, and they're very pleased with the progress of this young man, the rookie out of the University of Colorado.
It is a first down, Winnipeg. Here comes the pressure. Rogers missed, but finally Bobby Jurison is able to make the tackle. The initial contact McDougall was able to escape from.
Well, that was a team effort that time. As you said, Rogers came in. Edwards was the second man there, but Bobby Jurison, the KG veteran, 10 years in Saskatchewan, able to clean up, pick up that sack there, and drop McDougall for a big loss on the play.
The all-time sack leader for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and his parents have driven up 600 miles from Michigan to take in this game. Quarterback draw with McDougall. He loses the football, and Saskatchewan gets it back. There's also a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage. Terrell Elmer came up with the loose football after McDougall lost it after he had scampered down to the 20-yard line.
You know, they've run the ball so well on Saskatchewan this afternoon.
Legal procedure, Winnipeg number 25, decline. First down, Saskatchewan.
You come with a quarterback draw. One of the things that you have to do is that you have to get the tackles to rush wide. And that time, Saskatchewan was selling out. Right here, Cokla's going to go out. Edwards is going to go here. McDougall straight drop, come back up the middle. Very successful play call. Unfortunately, he lost the ball at the end as Joseph came across and stripped him at the end of that run, but great play execution by the Bombers.
The toss to Joseph. Joseph trying to get outside, and Kelly Rush finishes the tackle. No question that Kelly Rush can play. It's just you never know whether he's going to show up for meetings and practices.
Well, Kelly Rush is an excellent talent out of Florida State, as we see Joseph still down on the ground. Great down the line pursuit by Kelly. Had perfect leverage on the corner, working against Pete Short, the American offensive tackle that they've put in. As you see Kelly, he uses his hands as he comes down the line of scrimmage. Great angle as he feels from inside out, and that's how you teach it. That's how you draw it up. That's how it was executed.
This would be a big blow for Saskatchewan if they lose Joseph. He has had back-to-back 100-yard games, 148 versus Ottawa on the 23rd of August, and 12 carries for 110 against Winnipeg last week. Ray Yawk was saying, had Mike Saunders returned to the team, and with Darren Joseph in the backfield, he felt their ground game would be as good as any club in the CFL. Of course, Saunders signed as a free agent with the San Antonio Texans.
Well, when Joseph made his debut in the CFL back in Ottawa, he gained over 700 yards rushing as a rookie, and they felt the following year that Reggie Barnes was expendable. But they changed up how they wanted to use Joseph, more in a fullback mode. They had him gain a lot of weight, which he was very uncomfortable with. But since coming over to Saskatchewan in a trade this year for tackle Chris Burns, he has dropped down to under 210 pounds. Feels much more effective, and you've seen the effectiveness of his running game. Looks like he falls on the football right here with Rush on top of him. Might have been a little winded at the end of that play, and hopefully he'll be back next series for the Riders.
When Ray Yawk acquired Joseph, he converted him back to the tailback position. Yawk felt that he was much more adept at operating from a tailback position rather than running at a fullback spot. And of course, the Riders were desperate for a tailback.
Well, they were, and he has great peripheral vision, and that's what you expect from all your running backs, is that he knows how to read his blockers. He allows the time for his linemen to get in front of him, execute his blocks, not overrun them, sees the seams, then he hits the hole.
You talked about Kelly Rush landing on top of him. That's a load, 6'7", 255 pounds. And you got the football tucked in underneath your ribcage.
And he's been a talent that they've been expecting to develop fully and be one of those stars like a former defensive end here, Tony Norman, was for many years, a stellar performer for the Bombers defense.
A message to our Channel 6 Wynyard viewers. Our Channel 6 transmitter was off due to a technical problem with our transmitting equipment. This has been corrected, and we continue with our regular program schedule. We apologize for this interruption.
Some pushing and shoving back at the goal line, but it doesn't appear as though anything more serious is going to develop back there. Both Kelly Rush and Johnson were involved.
Well, some offensive linemen taking exception to the hit that was levied on Warren Jones by Greg Clark. And once the quarterback releases the ball, you're normally allowed one stride. Clark took 2 strides that time before leveling Jones. A little bit of payback, I guess, for the whipping that they took last week at Taylor Field, but the officials are going to have to keep an eye on that because you have to protect the quarterbacks in this game. And I'm saying that. Jesus.
Yeah, that does seem a little strange for you to be saying that, James.
Wait for the win.
1:05 is the time remaining in the opening quarter. 10-0 Winnipeg leads. Troy Westwood with the touchdown. Will Matic concede 2 more? Yes, he will. And there's going to be a penalty. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders guilty of a little undisciplined play there because Carey was in pursuit of Matic. Matic was simply trying to take some extra time off the clock and running around in the end zone.
Van Bellingham, I think, is going to be the player that you'll see being called for the clip. The point was going to be conceded, so there was really no necessity in throwing that.
A message to our Channel 6 Wynyard viewers. Our Channel 6 transmitter was off due to a technical problem with our transmitting equipment. This has been corrected, and we continue with our regular program schedule. We apologize for this interruption.
On the play because we both were looking at the clipping penalty and they got the holding penalty that time, but Saskatchewan right now has really dug themselves in a hole here, being down 12 points to Winnipeg in the first quarter. Granted, they had the wind in their face the entire quarter. They conceded the 2 safeties, not wanting to give Winnipeg great field position by kicking into that wind and not having the ball travel downfield.
Ray York said he wouldn't hesitate to put Tom Burgess into the ball game if Warren Jones was struggling. Warren Jones hasn't had a great opening quarter, and with York conferring with Burgess on the sidelines, perhaps a change is imminent.
Well, there's a lot of experience and wealth of knowledge with Tommy Burgess on the sideline.
On first down from the shotgun, McDougall finds a receiver open, and Wilcox will be close to another first down.
You know, one of the things that McDougall brings to this offense is the poise. He's accustomed, like you said earlier, to playing in the big game situations. He felt the pressure all around, and young quarterbacks are more apt on a regular basis to just take off and run. This time he sits in the pocket, he checks his second, third, goes to a 4th receiver before releasing the ball. Very poised and great presence of mind.
First and 10 Winnipeg. Wilcox again. Dave Van Bellingham, the safety, made the tackle, but not before Wilcox got to the 46-yard line. Well, I'm sure Gerald Wilcox is quite happy to see Kevin McDougall throwing the football for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because Wilcox has not had many opportunities to catch the football this year, as the Winnipeg passing attack at times has been almost non-existent. 1 second remains on the clock in the opening quarter, and McDougall came over to the sidelines to confer with Cal Murphy.
You know, you say non-existent, it was basically paltry, you know, the way the passing attack was, and he only had 1 reception last week at Taylor Field, and he already has a couple here in the first quarter today.
First and 10 Winnipeg from the Saskatchewan 46. Out into the flat to Shannon Baker, and he takes it into the 38-yard line. And that is also the end of the opening quarter, with Winnipeg leading 12-0. Well, the Bombers have brought in several new players, and one who will be added to the lineup almost certainly is Eddie Blake. He can go both ways. He's played nose tackle and he has played offensive tackle. As a matter of fact, at Auburn, he went both ways in a game against Alabama during his college career, and he also played on both sides of the football briefly with Miami. John Stone, the ball carrier, to the 35-yard line. And the Bombers feel that in the CFL, Blake might be able to go both ways, not on a 60-minute basis, but perhaps spelling off at a nose tackle position on occasion.
Well, that'd be a throwback to the players of the 50s and the 60s in the CFL, when you had players that went both ways during a game. And with the limited roster here in the CFL, if you have a player that is that talented, they had it last year with Alfred Jackson here in Winnipeg.
From the 35-yard line, the pass to Holland is complete. And Holland gets a first down to the 20-yard line of Saskatchewan. Well, this certainly appears to be a different Winnipeg football club, one that seems to be growing in confidence as McDougall continues a strong debut in a Winnipeg uniform.
Well, Kevin McDougall has been very impressive. He has excellent body mechanics when he's throwing the ball, and we get a look at the stats right here in the first quarter. Net passing for Saskatchewan, minus 31 yards, but Kevin McDougall with 154.
McDougall's pass for Baker. Baker thought he had made the catch. Reggie Slack wearing the headset. He and Sean Moore are dressed as the backups to Kevin McDougall.
Well, Shannon Baker went and ran a stop route, came back to the ball in front of Donaldson, and you see right here, he looks like he has the football, but the official right on top of the play called it incomplete.
I believe it just slipped out of his grasp as he came down. Quick pass over the middle intended for Ward, incomplete. Terrell Elmer was defending against the Winnipeg slot back, so on third down, Troy Westwood comes into the ball game to attempt a field goal, or will he? They wouldn't try that fake twice, would they?
I don't think you want to go to the well twice. Fool me once, okay, but fool me the second time, I'm stupid. And I don't think that the defenders will fall for that. A lot of times you become lax because you're selling out, trying to go in and block a kick. Saskatchewan committed to blocking the kick. Watch the wingmen this time. You'll have people laying back.
77.
This will be a 26-yard attempt for Westwood. And it's good. Well, Troy Westwood has been quite a story so far this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium, running for a touchdown, converting his own major, and now kicking a field goal.
Well, they needed someone to rally around and get some offensive spark from. Kevin McDougall has come in and given that leadership quality that you expect at the quarterback position. Troy Westwood has been putting the points on the scoreboard. You would have expected someone else to score their only touchdown, but he's been the guy that's delivered it, and Cal Murphy has to be happy with what he's seen with his team thus far in the first half.
Cal was debating yesterday as to who his starting quarterback would be, whether it would be Sean Moore or Kevin McDougall. He told me he really liked the enthusiasm that McDougall brought to the team. He said he has no CFL history. He simply has his winning record from Notre Dame, and he comes in here with much the same attitude when he takes charge of the offense that Matt Dunnigan had last year.
Well, one of the things about Kevin McDougall when he was at Notre Dame, he did not start until his fifth year. He was a fifth-year senior when he took over the starting reins at the University of Notre Dame, and he led his team that season to 11-1 record and number 2 national ranking in the U.S. college polls. And they felt that with his maturity, because he's not that young, you expect coming out of college, he may be 21, 22. He's 24 years old, so he's mature mentally, and he can handle the pressure of the starting assignment here today.
You see the effect of the wind on the kickoff. It hangs up. Ulmer fields it, and there's simply nowhere to go. Not only was he surrounded by Blue Bombers, but with the short kick, his own men didn't provide an opening.
Well, you really don't have a chance for your blocking to form in front of you because everyone is waiting to see when the ball is going to be caught. The return man normally gives the signal of go once the ball is caught, and they had to wait too long, and the Bombers with great coverage.
Only a 35-yard kickoff with a 3-yard run back, and Warren Jones is going to continue directing the Saskatchewan attack from the 40-yard line. Walters remains in there in place of Joseph. There's the little pass to Boyko. Boyko got away from one man and takes it across midfield for a first down. Tripped up by Darrell Sampson. Ray Yock couldn't say enough about the play of Boyko this season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He said he has definitely been our unsung hero.
Well, Bruce Boyko is one of those unselfish players. You see him on the screen pass, but look at the block by Hendrickson as he comes out from his guard position to allow Boyko the extra time to get into the open field and pick up the first down across midfield.
12-11 remaining in the half. Saskatchewan 1st and 10 from the Winnipeg 53. Donald Narcisse has not yet caught a pass, but he has now, and that ties the CFL record of Tony Gabriel. 137 consecutive games in catching a pass.
Well, Donald Narcisse has been the consummate receiver since joining the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Number 2 all-time active receivers right now in the CFL behind Ray Elgard, but now he ties Tony Gabriel for consecutive games with at least 1 reception. Congratulations, Donald Narcisse.
1st and 10 from the 43-yard line. And Walters takes it down to the 35-yard line.
Well, the quick hitter by Saskatchewan with the wind at their back, you have to be able to score some points. Walters gets the ball, but watch the hurdle through the line, getting into the secondary before Daryl Sampson can come up and make contact with him down at the 36-yard line.
10:58 remaining. Appeared to be offside against Saskatchewan as Warren Jones rolls out and is forced out of bounds by Colin Scribner. Jones, in running out of bounds, collided with a photographer over in the far side of the field, but there appeared to be some movement on the part of the Saskatchewan Roughriders prematurely.
Well, everyone right now is getting a little antsy after that big hit on Narcisse. The offensive linemen have a little more tendency to want to get off and go out and fire off and hit a defender, and that time looked like they jumped a little prematurely.
Narcisse tying the record of Tony Gabriel this afternoon. Next Sunday at home against Memphis, he will have an opportunity to break it.
Legal procedure, Saskatchewan number 81. Legal contact and an eligible receiver, number 20 Winnipeg. 5-yard advantage for Saskatchewan. First down repeated.
Ray Elgard just mistimed his movement from his slot back position in hitting the line of scrimmage when the ball was being snapped. But because of the infraction against Winnipeg, it's a net gain of 5 for Saskatchewan. It's now 1st and 5 for the Riders. They are at the Winnipeg 31-yard line. Walters, the ball carrier, he's in there replacing Joseph, and he struggles close to a first down at the Winnipeg 25.
Well, Rick Walters is a big plus in the backfield for Saskatchewan with Joseph out right now with those rib injuries. The quick hitter, once again, he is very explosive and elusive. He's getting up, he's reading the block, he's making the right cuts, allowing the blocking to develop. Boom. First down once again for Saskatchewan.
10:05 remaining in the first half. Winnipeg leading by a score of 15-0. It's 1st and 10 for Saskatchewan. Ball is at the Winnipeg 25-yard line.
Inside.
Jones has Narcisse wide open, and Narcisse will have another Saskatchewan first down, but Hendrickson with a late hit on Greg Clark, and that draws a penalty flag.
This is the game of football, and in football there's a lot of intensity, and in a rivalry such as you have with Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, you can't tell players to slow down. We see Donald Narcisse once again on that slant route.
Saskatchewan number 63. After the first down's been made, 15-yard pen length, first down Saskatchewan.
Picking up his second reception of the game, but you'll see Hendrickson come in late as if it rolled through as he knocks Clark off, and the penalty will cost Saskatchewan yardage back out beyond the 25-yard line.
After the penalty call, perhaps this is not an appropriate time, but Hendrickson asked me if I would wish his mother Carol a happy birthday today.
Well, I would imagine she'll have something to say to him tonight when she talks to him later on when he gets back to Regina. Jones
has some time It was intended for Narcisse. It's incomplete. Narcisse with 2 catches today, tying Tony Gabriel's CFL record, 137 consecutive games catching a pass. As I mentioned, he has an opportunity to set the record at home at Taylor Field against Memphis on Sunday.
One of the things about Warren Jones is he has hot feet. As you watch him right here, he doesn't set his feet, and that causes him to throw the ball wide. As a quarterback, you have to have good mechanics. You have to get the body squared up, get those hips turned so you can follow through properly.
9:09 remaining in the half. Jones continuing to operate out of the shotgun. 4 receivers to the right. Jones looks over the middle. Farthing makes the catch at the 10-yard line. Farthing had to go high to haul it in, but Jones delivered it perfectly.
That's one of the things that Warren Jones brings to this offense is the strong arm. But this time, sitting in the pocket, he has the proper mechanics. Watch the footwork. As he gets set, he plants, and he's able to follow through as he delivers the ball to Farthing for the first down at the 10-yard line. And a great reception by Dan Farthing. He goes high, catches the ball at his highest point, pulls it in. Big play for Saskatchewan.
The University of Saskatchewan product has given the Roughriders a first down at the 10-yard line, just outside the 10. Pass over the middle, incomplete. Narcisse is the man the pass was intended for, and it was Darius Watson who was defending against him. It will be 2nd and 10 for Saskatchewan.
You'll get a look. Watson gets there just a little bit ahead of the football. Donald Narcisse had a valid complaint, but the officials watching the game, sometime with that flash as it goes across, and we got that bright sun coming out of, what direction is that, Don? The north? I'm a little lost geographically up here.
South and a little to the west right now.
That's your 5.
Into the end zone, incomplete. Troy Dickey is the man Jones was looking for. Dickey was added to the roster for this game because of a slight hurt that Turner was contending with. Dickey played with Barcelona in the World Football League. Hasn't seen a great deal of action with the Riders.
Don, you talk about Pete Shorts, the big right offensive tackle, the first American since 1983, and Don Swafford playing for the Green Riders, playing right tackle, giving Jones the time he needs to find his receivers downfield.
Well, from an almost similar position, Dave Ridgway in the opening quarter saw Troy Westwood, his Winnipeg counterpart, run it in for a major score.
Well, I would think Troy's a little better athlete than what Dave is.
It's gone. It's on.
No doubts about that one as Ridgway puts it through from 17 yards out as the Roughriders are on the board with 7:45 remaining in the half. Tremendous crowd watching the action at Spruce Meadows yesterday, and we continue our coverage this afternoon following this football game. Winnipeg 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line following the 17-yard field goal by David Ridgway. Well, Brad Robinson was there to bring down Blaze Bryant after a gain of about 3.
Well, Winnipeg has been content to try to test the middle of that Saskatchewan defensive unit, and they've done a pretty good job of holding up since that first quarter barrage. Alexander, Edwards, and Robinson, the front 3, doing a good job.
Fake inside on 2nd down, out into the flat to Fred Ward. Talking to offensive coordinator Mike Kelly, he said something they worked on this week with Kevin McDougall. They tested him in a lot of situations, trying to improve his reading ability, and obviously it has paid off.
Well, Don, his reading ability as well as his body mechanics. Watch as he gets his hips turned, and that's the key to be able to throw the ball to the left. He got the hip square, he's able to get the shoulders turned and deliver the ball out to Fred Ward.
1st and 10 Winnipeg from midfield. Hand off to Chris Johnstone, and he struggles to get to the 51-yard line. LeBrant Robinson was in on the stop with some help from Rogers as McDougall looks over to the sidelines for some help in his play selection. Reggie Slack is on the headset to the booth upstairs with offensive coordinator Mike Kelly.
Chris Johnstone came under a lot of fire from the coaching staff, feeling that his productivity was way down. He had only carried the ball 16 times coming into today's game. He might be wearing down pretty soon.
On the option, McDougall's in big trouble. And he isn't going to get away from Robinson. Pushing and shoving after the play was whistled down. That's the second or third time that has occurred this afternoon.
But back to the Chris Johnstone story. Coming into this week of training camp, everybody said it was hell week here in Winnipeg. Cal Murphy went back to the live contact. Johnstone was one of the focal points of a lot of criticism through the local media here, and he felt that he needed to regain some respect. You get the shot by Blaze Bryant as he comes in there and hits Joseph from the side. Good call by the official because it was not warranted. It was after the play was over. The jawing is going to go on all day long, and he's been replaced by Matt Pierce. Cal Murphy is not going to go for much of that this afternoon.
Dale Joseph and Walby were jawing away at each other when Blaze Bryant came flying in. I don't think Walby needs any help against Joseph.
Well, he's a little wounded. He has a bad right arm. So
In front, ball.
Bob Cameron's punt hangs up in the wind. Almer will field it. Penalty flags, no yards the call against Winnipeg. That comes with 5:29 remaining in the first half. Only a 24-yard. Well, the penalty flag certainly proved costly against Winnipeg. First it was Blaze Bryant in the altercation with Joseph, and then on the punt that only traveled 24 yards, 15 yards for no yards against Winnipeg, and then a 15-yard rough play penalty assessed against Winnipeg. So after Cameron's 24-yard punt, the end result is a loss of 6.
Well, not a headsy play by the Bombers, and those are the type of things that cost you. Saskatchewan has to capitalize.
Jones gets away from the initial pressure, and then he's caught from behind by Bolden. But Bolden appears to have injured himself in making the tackle.
And they came into this game very thin in the secondary, Don. They've had a lot of replacement over the past couple of games, and Bolden, one of the starters who's been a bright spot, the fastest guy on the team. They can't afford to lose him.
He appears to be in a lot of pain. Well, thought for a moment that maybe in making the tackle on Jones, the foot of the Saskatchewan quarterback came up and caught him in the face, but it appears to be something more severe. 15-3, Winnipeg leads with 5:03 remaining in the half. Duran Bolden, whose interception total matches his sweater number, the injured Winnipeg player, he's shaking off any help from trainer Ross Hodgkinson.
Well, right at the end of that run, you see him reach out right here at that right arm, and he seems like he might have hyperextended that shoulder, and it pops right back in, but they can't afford to lose him in the lineup.
Ryan Carey, the team's #1 draft pick out of Acadia in 1994, is into the ball game. In his place, Ryan Walters took the pass. The ball came loose, but I believe the whistle had already gone. And the pass on the second down play should provide Saskatchewan with a first down as they position the football at the 20, 1st and 10 for the green and white.
Well, the ground can't cause a fumble. This is another impressive drive that Saskatchewan has started here. Even though they're operating on a short field, it is very critical in this game today when you have the wind at your back that you're able to produce points on the scoreboard, and they need a major.
Rick Walters taking over from Darren Joseph. Walters from Simon Fraser. The pass down in the goal area, and there's going to be an interference call against Daryl Sampson on Donald Narcisse. Daryl Sampson, the veteran Winnipeg defender in his 10th year, had Narcisse in behind him.
Play was all Donald Narcisse. Donald Narcisse understood that that ball was uncatchable, and just as it got to the point where it was going to go over his head, he slowed down on his route, left his feet, knowing that Sampson was trailing, caused the interference. Very headsy play by the veteran rider.
First and goal, Saskatchewan from just outside the 10-yard line. 3:53 remaining in the half. From the shotgun, Warren Jones, 3 receivers to the left, goes to the right side of the field. Penalty penalty flag on the play as the Riders, Donald Narcisse takes it into the end zone, but there's a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage, and this usually indicates offensive holding.
It is holding on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That is a devastating blow to the Green Riders offense. Just when they thought they'd punched it in for their first major of the afternoon.
Jason Millette, the Winnipeg safety, the injured player. But he didn't need any assistance from the training staff, so he is going to remain out there. The holding call takes the ball back to just outside the 20-yard line. It's 1st and 20 for Saskatchewan. Under pressure, Jones escapes, throws incomplete. He was looking for Boyko. James Jefferson, the veteran, added to the Winnipeg roster for the Labor Day game, broke it up.
The two-time former all-CFL cornerback here with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers times his leap perfectly as he comes over the shoulder of Boyko and bats that one away. And once again, Saskatchewan is turned away inside the 20.
Jefferson was released by the Philadelphia Eagles on the 22nd of August with some negotiation taking place. Cal Murphy was able to sign him to a contract, and he dressed last week for the Labor Day game. Pass over the middle, incomplete. Walters is the man Jones was looking for with 2:57 remaining in the half. So it will be 3rd and 20 for Saskatchewan when we return to Winnipeg Stadium.
Here's what's coming up on the BF Goodrich TA halftime report. September 19th, 1987. That was almost 8 years ago to the day when Donald Narcisse caught a pass, and every game since then he's made a reception. 137 straight. We'll profile Narcisse. We'll also go to Scott Russell at the Masters in Spruce Meadows, and Don and James will have their first half highlights. Don?
And I think it's safe to say that Troy Westwood's touchdown run will be one of the first half highlights. Here's Dave Ridgway attempting his second field goal. And it's wide. Don't often see robo-kicker miss from this range, particularly with the wind at his back.
Well, you know, he had been one of the most consistent kickers in CFL history all time. But coming into this game, Don, he was only hitting at a 71% clip. And normally that's an automatic for Dave Ridgway. But as you saw, he pushed it to the right. He didn't compensate for the wind. Once again, Saskatchewan is turned away only with a single.
So Winnipeg will take over 1st and 10. The Bombers at their own 35-yard line. McDougall has completed 7 of 10 passes so far for 99 yards. He's going to throw deep, and he badly underthrew the man he was looking for, Gerald Wilcox. Van Bellingham came over to assist Vincent Donaldson in covering the Winnipeg slot back. Looked like he was trying to put something a little extra onto that throw going into the wind.
Well, he was throwing sidearm, and when you're throwing into the wind, if you don't get planted down and come with a good follow through and get some velocity, you got to put some gas on the ball. I mean, you got to smoke it. Dieter Brock could do that. No one else has done it since.
As they said about Dieter Brock, he could throw a ball through a car wash without getting it wet. There's the hitch screen to Shannon Baker. Baker has speed, but he can't escape the clutches of Terrell Elmer at the 51-yard line. His nickname in Florida was Shannon Baker, the touchdown maker. He was talking to Cal Murphy yesterday, and he said, "Coach, I'm going to break one for you tomorrow."
Well, he showed his explosiveness on that play, as you'll get the offensive linemen running out, and that's the key, is that they get out and allow Baker to come back underneath, and that is the key to this play. If you don't get your offensive lineman out, your receiver doesn't stand a chance, and you saw Von Conant and Garrell get out there leading a convoy.
This time McDougall's in trouble, and he was forced to pull it down with Ron Getz draped all over him. As I mentioned, the Saskatchewan Roughriders missed Getz last week, although the numbers certainly wouldn't indicate that there was any problem, as they had 7 quarterback sacks. But he was out with a knee injury, and they certainly have welcomed him back to the fold this week.
Well, last week the Saskatchewan Roughriders didn't miss much of anything against these Blue Bombers, but it's been a turn of the tables this afternoon. The Bombers are playing inspired football.
2nd and 17, Winnipeg. Quarterback draw with McDougall. There's also a penalty flag. And this may all go for naught. And Cal Murphy looks on, and the expression in his face pretty much tells the story. Holding call against Winnipeg will bring this one back.
Rick McNeil, the left guard of the Bombers, is the culprit. You're going to see him right here, and he is the guy you're going to see him with a slam on Edwards as he comes up in the hole. He just wraps up and pulls him right to the ground, takes him down. McDougall escapes up inside, but the official on top throws the flag.
McNeil back in the lineup this year after tearing up his knee a year ago. Forced him to miss the postseason action. Toss inside to Blaze Bryant. Bryant cuts it back inside and gets to the 50-yard line, where he's brought down by Terrell Elmer. 1:36 remaining in the half. Evan McDougall has very quickly won the heart of Winnipeg football fans with his performance this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium in the rematch of the Winnipeg-Saskatchewan rivalry.
Well, he's been very impressive, very poised, and that's something that you often don't find with a young quarterback in his first start. And coming here over halfway through the season, coming out in a game that's as important as this one is today, and having the poise that he has possessed is a big plus for the Bombers, not just today, but in games to come.
Some of his players, teammates, including Reggie Slack, were kidding him that he chose to sign with Winnipeg because the colors are similar to Notre Dame.
I'm staying ready.
Excellent kick by Cameron. Randall fields it. Penalty flag on the play. Randall keeps on going, looking for some help in the sidelines, but he runs out of room. That was a great kick by Cameron into the wind out of the south-southwest at 35, gusting to 44.
But that one's going to be all for naught. We're going to get an illegal block against Saskatchewan, and Brian Randall's great punt return.
Legal block, Saskatchewan, number 3. After this, it's the goal line. First down, Saskatchewan.
Errol Brown was the culprit on that illegal block. You'll see him at the top right here in front of Randall as he gets the push in the back. Randall breaks around the corner, but it's all for naught because it's brought back down to the 18-yard line.
That was a 42-yard punt by Cameron into the wind, and a run back of 22 yards that, of course, was wiped out by the penalty. 1:22 is the time remaining in the first half. Winnipeg in front by a score of 15-4.
And with that mark off half the distance to the goal, they're going to be starting here at the 9-yard line. They need to be very careful in this part of the field now.
Jones swings it out to Walters. Walters got away from Jefferson as Jefferson attempted to put a shoulder down into him and take him off his feet. You won't often do that with a strong running back.
Well, that's one of the things. Jefferson has never seen Walters run before. So the style is new to him. When he came out and gave him that pirouette, just as he thought he was going to try to run him over, he left James eating some turf.
Got to get your arms around those backs to bring them down.
Well, a lot of times as defensive backs, they always had that history of closing their eyes when they came up to make a tackle.
2nd and 4, Saskatchewan. And they will get the first down as it's taken out of bounds over in the far side of the field by Walters coming out of the backfield. So back-to-back plays with Walters produce a first down for Saskatchewan and take them out of a little trouble with 1:10 remaining in the half.
Well, Walters is making the most of his opportunity to play with Joseph out of the game with that rib problem in the first quarter, and he has been a spark. He's catching passes, he's holding onto the ball, he's done a great job in reading his block and picking up yardage rushing the ball.
Pass is complete out to Donald Narcisse. He was down, but still made the catch. When he first came into the league, a lot of people said that Donald Narcisse was probably too small to play. But he has disproved those theories with a tremendous career that is now one game short of setting a consecutive record for catching passes.
Donald Narcisse is a consummate receiver. You know, one of those guys who goes out and works hard every play. That time you saw him coming back to his quarterback, making the reception.
It's Narcisse again, but Bolden got his hands on it. Bolden was trying to pull it away, and I think Narcisse may have prevented the interception.
Well, doing it all, Don. Playing defense also, making sure that Bolden could not hold on to the ball. Donald Narcisse fought him to the bitter end, coming to the ground, and the ball came free.
Bombers are certainly happy that when Bolden went down, it was not serious.
We get a shot here as Kelly Rush takes a late hit on Warren Jones, and the officials are going to have to keep an eye on that because that is the type of hit that will cost you a quarterback.
Cal Murphy sees that. He won't be happy because undisciplined play by Kelly Rush has hurt the Bombers this year. Ray Algard made the catch, caught by Garrett. Algard had not hit the end zone until the Labor Day battle. He scored 2 touchdowns, and after scoring his second, he kissed the turf in the end zone. I asked him why he didn't do it on his first. He said, I forgot.
Well, it had been such a long run since he had crossed the goal line. It was just like he thought it was another pass reception, but Ray has had a fine and outstanding career in the CFL, the all-time reception and yardage leader in CFL history, and added some more to it on that last reception. K.D. Williams is the down linebacker on the play. A backup linebacker coming in on the pass rush. Got tangled up with Dan Payne, the big 6'8", 300 and maybe 30, 40, maybe even 50-pound offensive tackle, and came out on the short end of that battle.
Dan Payne is a player that the Saskatchewan Roughriders feel could be even better if he became a little more intense. And the Riders feel that they have to become more physical up front. That's one of the reasons they added the import, Pete Shorts, to their offensive line. They'd like to see Payne also become a little more physical.
Well, Dan Payne once was a very physical person. He was a silver medalist in the '88 Olympics as a Roman Greco wrestler, and you know, they were hoping that he would bring that type of mentality to the offensive line for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Donald Narcisse on the sidelines makes the catch in front of James Jefferson with 26 seconds remaining in the half. It will be 1st and 10 for the Riders.
You know, Don, everybody has talked about Don Narcisse's size, his speed, his lack of ability. But the one thing he does consistently...
I don't think they ever said anything about lack of ability.
No, lack of ability. They've said that. That's speed on a receiver. And all he's done is catch balls game in, game out, and has tied a CFL record today.
In and out of the hands of Boyko. Almost appeared as though Boyko wasn't anticipating the throw.
Well, it's like he was setting up to block on the play. He was thinking that Jones was going to roll out farther on that search pass, and he pulled up and he saw Boyko open and hit him with the ball, and he was surprised on the play. A low pass, and with the wind blowing, sometimes that ball will get to you quicker than what you expect. And Saskatchewan is forced with a 2nd and 10.
22 seconds remaining in the half. Pass was intended for Dickey, a high throw, and Jones is blaming himself because he had Dickey open on the sidelines.
And once again, poor mechanics with Jones. He is back there. He has those happy feet in the pocket. He has to keep his feet set so that he can get the proper follow-through and delivery on the football. And that's what's causing the ball to float. If he sets up, delivers the ball, he'll get the nose down and he can make those completions.
This is going to be a 54-yard field goal attempt for Dave Ridgway with the wind at his back. His last field goal try went wide. And this one is also going to go wide. Baker will take it out of the end zone. And he goes out of bounds in the vicinity of the 21-yard line. Dave Ridgway has had a brilliant CFL career. But that field goal attempt, his second of the game, to sail wide to the right. And he doesn't even come away with a single point as it was run out of the end zone.
Winnipeg has to be very happy with what they've done here in the first half, limiting Saskatchewan to only 4 points and walking away with 15 of their own. And that's a lot to build on at halftime in the locker room.
Ridgway, the second all-time leading scorer in the Canadian Football League, coming into this game with 2,306 points.
And he keeps wondering, will Lou Pasaglia ever retire?
Thank you.
Go.
And that is the final play of the first half at Winnipeg Stadium as the Bombers go to the dressing room with an 11-point lead. At halftime, you'll meet Donald Narcisse, who has equaled Tony Gabriel's record, 137 consecutive games catching a pass.
BC beat the Riders 43-24. Andre Ware with a cameo appearance and a touchdown pass. There's hope yet for Ottawa. Last night, Baltimore defeating Birmingham 28-20. They rested Mike Pringle, the running back. He had a strained hamstring muscle. And last night, the Ticats and Argos rekindling their rivalry at Ivor Wynn. Look at this. Anthony Cavillo finds Lee Knight wide open for the winning touchdown. The Ticats come back to beat the Argos. The final 33-27. Well, the sports world marveling at the impressive performance over the week of Cal Ripken Jr. as he matched and then broke Lou Gehrig's incredible record of 2,130 consecutive games played. Well, in pro football, another streak to take note today. Today, Tony Gabriel's record of 137 games with at least one catch was matched by Saskatchewan's Donald Narcisse, a streak that began 8 years ago by a player who was once told he was too small for the game of pro football.
My job is to catch the football. I'm the only guy on the team that doesn't get a chance to play on special team, so I'm the freshest guy on the team. So when things go bad, it's time for me to pick up the pace. This game is brought up 70% mentally, 30% physically. And I think if I could just meditate and just work on the things that I have to do and think about it, I can be well, and I can exceed in any and everything. And I like a lot of pressure. I play good when there's a lot of pressure, especially when they bring a lot of new guys in as far as being a receiver. That's what brings me, that's what lights my torch. That's when I'm living on the edge. That's what put the fire in me to play a little harder. And I love the pressure. It's a key to me is to go out there and catch the first ball that comes my way. If I miss it, I'm in trouble, because that's when I put a lot of pressure on myself, thinking about what I got to do for the next catch. But, you know, I try to be perfect, and I've been playing for 9 years, and I haven't made it yet. And I always want to strive to be better. And I always try to be better than the average guy. And I always try hard. And the way I've been brought up, you know, nobody has given me anything. I always have to work hard for it. And knowing that this is a big game for us, I got to go out there and make plays. I think if I can go out there and make a big play, we can win. And this record is really nothing to me, but it's more to our fans. And my job is to go out there and catch the ball.
League in 1980. And this is the record-tying catch coming in the first half here today. Narcisse taking the pass from Warren Jones and then withstanding a tough hit from the Bomber defense. Make it 137 consecutive games, tying Tony Gabriel. Don't forget, folks, that Donald Narcisse also holds the CFL record with 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Tony Gabriel, move over and make room for Donald Narcisse. Coming right up after this football game, we'll take you to Spruce Meadows for the biggest show jumping event of the season, the Du Maurier Limited International. Here is Scott Russell.
Mark, a year ago at Spruce Meadows, John Whitaker of Great Britain hoisted aloft the trophy emblematic of victory in show jumping's richest single event, the De Maurier Limited International. It was the third time that Whitaker had won this prestigious competition. More importantly, however, Whitaker collected the victor's paycheck of $225,000. Now, that's not bad when you consider that he and his horse Granish worked for about 4 minutes to get the prize. This year again, the De Maurier Limited International promises the best global field, huge crowds, and even bigger money. Talk about inflation. In 1976, Canada's Michelle Viancourt won the Sunday Grand Prix at Spruce Meadows and collected the princely sum of $4,800. 20 years later, 40-plus horses in a dozen countries will compete for a single-day purse of $725,000. The winner will take home $230,000. It's unheard of in international show jumping, and when it comes to Spruce Meadows, money talks. All of the Olympic and World Championship medalists are here, and that makes the De Maurier Limited International a very real preview of next year's Atlanta Olympics. It all starts after the football game. Mark?
All right, Scott, the equine set coming right up after this game at 4 Eastern on CBC. Bombers with a better account of themselves in this first half. It's 15-4 report where the Bombers lead the Roughriders 15-4 at the half. Here's an interesting statistic. The Bombers with 227 net yards offense in this first half. That's 4 times the 65 yards they had in last week's embarrassing loss to Regina. For their thoughts in the first half, let's go up to the booth to Don and James.
Mark, much more in terms of offense for Winnipeg, but only 1 touchdown in the football game. And James, that came from a most unlikely source.
You know, the smallest guy on the field for Winnipeg this afternoon, Troy Westwood, you know, with the great fake on the field goal attempt. But watch Bob Cameron as he places the ball down and flicks it over his right shoulder. That was the key. He sold the spot on the play, and he made Saskatchewan commit touchdown, the result for Winnipeg.
And in addition to that, the big play this afternoon for Saskatchewan, this catch by Donald Narcisse, equaling Tony Gabriel's record. He paid a price, though, with a pretty solid hit from Greg Clark at the end of the play.
Well, you figure after 137 straight games of making those catches, he's probably taken several of those. But this has been the problem with Saskatchewan all afternoon. And David Ridgway, it hasn't come his way either. He's missed a couple of field goal attempts with this wind here at Winnipeg Stadium, pushing it to the right, and it's cost Saskatchewan opportunities to get on the scoreboard this afternoon.
Well, this game is following the pattern of so many other back-to-back encounters between these two teams, where Saskatchewan wins big at home, the Bombers bounce back on their home field.
Well, they've been very flat offensively, and one of the things you can't do is package up all of those points. And so you have to play conservatively and know how to score when you get the opportunity.
15-4 is the score. Winnipeg leading Saskatchewan at the half. Let's go back to Mark.
Don, it's a windy day here in Winnipeg. The wind is picking up. The Bombers will have the win for the crucial 4th quarter of this football game. The teams are back in the field. The kickoff to the second half is next.
Saskatchewan will have the football to start the second half here at Winnipeg Stadium as the Blue Bombers prepare to kick off, and that means the Riders will have the wind at their back. Chris Johnstone, the story of the first half as far as Winnipeg's ground game was concerned. Only 16 carries coming into this game, and the product of the Edmonton Junior Wildcats has picked up 30 yards through the first half of this football game. This is Terrell Elmer on the return. He got away from Sampson and brings it back to midfield. So for Saskatchewan, excellent field position to start the first series of the second half.
And Don, this is the most critical quarter of the game for Saskatchewan. It's the 3rd quarter. They have the wind at their back. They're going to be having in their face their entire 3rd quarter, and 4th quarter. And they're making the change with Tommy Burgess. Tommy has had a chance in the first half to sit down and see what Winnipeg has been doing defensively. Now he gets his chance to shine.
1993 was his big year. 5,063 yards, 30 touchdowns for the Ottawa Roughriders. 1st and 10, Saskatchewan from midfield. He gives the ball to Joey Walters, and Walters picks up about 7 before being brought down by Jason Millett.
Don, you know, Tommy Burgess came into this season 6th on the all-time CFL passing list, but he stated a few weeks ago that he was dropping rapidly.
Yeah, dropping rapidly, said Tommy. Guys are passing me as I sit in the bench, but now he has replaced Warren Jones. Jones took over the starting signal calling chores from Burgess. But obviously Ray Yock was not all that happy with what Jones was able to accomplish in the first half. He gives the ball to Burgess, and Burgess hands off in the second down play to Walters, and he should have a first down.
Well, he's very pleased with Walters and what he's been able to accomplish since coming into the game for Darren Joseph. He's been a big plus and a big lift for this Saskatchewan backfield.
Statistically, the two teams had 12 first downs in the opening half. Saskatchewan had a better pass game. Winnipeg did a good job along the ground, 115 to 18 yards for Saskatchewan.
The key to having a solid running game, Don, is that you allow your defense to rest. And by Winnipeg keeping its defense off the field, it kept Saskatchewan's offense cold. So when they came into the game, they were always starting with poor field position.
Cal Murphy thought his team would be able to run against Winnipeg, and Ray Yock anticipated that Winnipeg would try and run, but he thought that the Rider defensive unit would be able to control things.
Come here.
Well, Winnipeg has been one of the more formidable running teams in the CFL in the 90s. They've had 3 rushing titles here, and last year was the first time in many years that they hadn't won the title. And the running game has been suffering this season. They haven't had a consistent running attack. The running backs have changed, 3 different tailbacks this year.
On first down, Burgess, I believe, was looking for Dickey. It will be 2nd and 10.
Well, that's one of the things that Tommy has to get back on the same page with his receivers as is the timing. You're going to get Rusty sitting on the bench, and Warren has been starting for the past 5 games, and Tommy's been getting most of the reps with the secondary unit. Now he's in with the first teamers.
Winnipeg, of course, certainly familiar with the strengths and weaknesses of Tom Burgess because he was a quarterback here under Cal Murphy.
Won a Grey Cup.
Is complete to Joey Yock as he takes the ball to the 28-yard line.
Don, a lot of times when you have a father and son combination with the father and coach, a lot of people will speculate favoritism. But when you make plays like Joey Yock does here, going high, making that reception, he's on the team because he's an athlete who deserves to be there.
A little trivia for you, James. There are 5 players on the field this afternoon who are the sons of former CFL players. Joey Yock obviously is one.
Well, let's go to it after this play.
Penalty flag as Walters gets the call on first down. He stopped after a pickup of about 3.
Okay, I get a little assistance here. We have Kevin Robertson, Father Paul, Mike Anderson, Father Paul. Were they brothers? Joey Yock, Ray's the coach. Brooke Finley, Greg, Scott Hendrickson. We have one more, though, that's not on the font.
Brooks Finlay's grandfather played with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, so he's a 3rd generation Finlay in the CFL.
But we have another father and son combination, Don and David Whitman. They didn't make it to that font stand. You know David, don't you?
Yeah, I think I'm familiar with him. Doing some stats for us this afternoon. 12:16 remaining. 1st and 15. This is over the head of Narcisse. James Jefferson had pretty good position on Narcisse, and it may have been a good thing for Burgess that the pass was high.
Well, also, no one is really compensated for the win. We've seen David Ridgway miss a couple of field goals to the right, and watch the ball as it sails behind Narcisse. It gets that tail on it, and the wind just carries it, and that's one of the things. You have to get the nose down when you have that high wind behind you.
Jefferson was with the BC Lions last year. He initially started his CFL career with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 2nd and 15. Burgess has Elgard open, and Elgard will get a Saskatchewan first down. There was also a penalty flag at the 25-yard line. It may be pass interference against Winnipeg. No. They're saying procedure against Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan, legal procedure, number 81, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down repeat.
Ray Elgard has been so notorious for getting that running start and looked like he might have gotten into the neutral zone just a stride before the snap. and that big catch is going to be wiped out with that penalty.
When you see the flag downfield, you often think it is an interference call against the defending team. But for the second time this afternoon, Elgard came across the line of scrimmage prior to the ball being snapped.
Well, with that win this afternoon, even the flag is carrying.
2nd and 20 now for Saskatchewan. They're backed up to the 38, trying to set up the screen pass to Walters, and Walters battles down to about the 23-yard line before being driven back. But the Riders are going to be shy of a first down, and that means that David Ridgway will probably come into the ball game to attempt his 4th field goal. Jason Millett is the injured player.
A well-designed play by the Saskatchewan offense with Millett down, the free safety for the Bombers. What you do to make a screen pass successful is you allow those ends to get upfield thinking that they have a free run at the quarterback. Tommy Burgess was able to dump it off to Walters. He picked up his downfield blocking and got inside the 25-yard line for the field goal attempt by Ridgway.
Well, David Ridgway has missed 2 of his 3 field goal tries. Coming into the game, he had only missed 1 from inside the 30-yard line this year. He missed from 27 yards, and he was also good on 3 of 4 this year from outside the 50, and he missed his last attempt from 54 yards out.
Well, Ridgway, you know, this is uncharacteristic of him. He'd been so consistent over the years in Saskatchewan. One of the things you could always count on for the Green Riders, robo-kicker.
28 consecutive for Saskatchewan in 1993. And as I mentioned earlier, he has a book that is doing quite well, his autobiography, Robo-Kicker. Jason Millett, the injured Winnipeg player, receiving treatment from trainer Ross Hodgkinson. 11-10 remains in the 3rd quarter. Jason Mallett, the injured player, a 1st-round pick out of Carleton by the Bombers in 1995.
We get a great look here at the injury on Jason Mallett, and this is where the ACL comes into play. Watch as he plants. Keep an eye on his right leg right here as it buckles up underneath him. When you're playing, and that's one of the problems players have always had with AstroTurf, it doesn't give, and when those cleats get stuck, you can come up with an injury.
A 31-yard field goal attempt by Ridgway.
It's gone.
And this one is good. So it's now a 15-7 football game as David Ridgway has accounted for all of the Saskatchewan Roughrider points.
Well, David had been finessing his first couple of kicks that he missed, Don, but this one he just hammers. A nice low line drive as it sails over the line of scrimmage. We get a good look at Michelle Lammy right there in the middle of the line, and Dave knuckles that one right through for the 3 points, but Saskatchewan desperately needs to score a major in this quarter.
Team scored 56 points on Sunday. A week later, they've only got 7.
Well, you know, one of the things for Saskatchewan, everything they did went right. Special teams, offense, defense. Today they struggled.
Blaze Bryant, the ball carrier. He's forced to cut back inside. The Bombers are still waiting for Blaze Bryant to break loose. Last year he had that huge game against Hamilton where he carried 35 times for 249 yards. There are some who are a little concerned that at times in his running he's almost a little hesitant.
Well, Don, you recall the game we did in Baltimore last year when he suffered that ligament injury in the 1st quarter of that game. I think it was his first carry of the game, and he has been very tentative since coming back off of that knee injury.
2nd and 9 for Baker. Can't make the catch. Baker battling against Benson Donaldson. He tried to come back for the ball and jumped prematurely, perhaps.
Well, that's one of the things when you have man coverage. The receiver knows where the ball is going to be. Donaldson is overrunning the play. Baker comes back, leaps in the air, but just his body momentum takes him away from the football, and the ball falls freely to the turf.
Bob Cameron, during his 16-year CFL career, has averaged an incredible 42.9 yards per kick. He'll be tested here, kicking against that strong south-southwest wind. And it bounces out of bounds around the midfield stripe. Many people acknowledge that Cameron might be the best bad weather kicker in the CFL, but that one only traveled 20 yards.
Well, that's one of the things that he does here on a consistent basis when they have bad weather days, is that he kicks into the wind, because anyone can kick with the wind to their back, but it becomes an art form, and Bob Cameron had mastered that in kicking into the wind.
Someone was asking him yesterday how long he's going to continue playing. He said, till I'm 50. I want to be getting my pension check and my playing check at the same time. Here's a reverse with Donald Narcisse. And Duran Bolden makes the tackle, but Narcisse should have a first down.
A little trickery that time in the Saskatchewan Arsenal. Tommy Burgess coming in, and not the guy that you would expect. Narcisse, not the fleetest of the receiving corps, but the guy with the misdirection, and that is the key, that you want to get that fast pursuing Bomber defense going one direction, bring Narcisse back against the flow, and he picks up a first down.
Tom Burgess taking over from Warren Jones to start the second half. Burgess was with Winnipeg in the 1991 seasons. Here's the pressure. He dumps it off to Boyko, and Boyko gets a couple of blocks, finds some room, and gets down to the 12-yard line. James Jefferson came over to make the tackle with some help from Ryan Carey, who was playing the safety spot, replacing Jason Mallett.
You got Burgess here. You got Boyko here getting a block. He's going to slip out. The rush is going to come on Burgess. He's going to drop it off. And that is a great play design right there. The execution, Burgess is willing to stand in and take the hit to get the ball to Boyko. He picks up his blocking. He's inside the 15.
A Ruley touchdown at the 14-yard line. First and 10, Saskatchewan. Burgess drills it over the middle. Touchdown to Donald Narcisse. (5'9", 170 pounds. As I said earlier, there were many people who thought that perhaps he was a little too small to play on a consistent basis in the CFL, but he's been the most consistent performer this league has perhaps ever seen.
And he continues to mystify secondaries in the CFL. Donald Narcisse on that deep slant route gets inside Jefferson. Once again, touchdown Riders. Big score for the Green Riders.
And now Ridgway has an opportunity to pull the team within one. He puts it through, and Winnipeg clings to a one-point lead with 7:35 remaining in the third quarter. Only the second touchdown reception of the year for Donald Narcisse, but he put the capper on a 55-yard, four-play drive to bring the Riders within one.
Don, it couldn't have came at a more important time when the Riders needed to come up with a big play with the wind at their back here in the third quarter. Donald Narcisse makes the great slant catch for the touchdown from Tommy Burgess.
And the Riders still have 7:35 in this third quarter with the wind at their back. Shannon Baker on the kickoff return brings the ball back to the 29-yard line. An indication of just how thoroughly Saskatchewan dominated last week against Winnipeg. They did not return a single kickoff in the football game.
Well, you know, sometimes that's a good and a bad thing. You got guys who work all week long on special teams and practice, hoping for an opportunity to go back and return one. But the good thing, they didn't have to do it, and that just shows how efficient Saskatchewan was offensively last weekend.
24,698 watching the action at Winnipeg Stadium this afternoon. And many of these fans will leave here feeling, I'm sure, that this young man, Kevin McDougall, is their quarterback of the future. He completes the pass to Holland. He'll be stopped short of a first down and a solid hit by Randall. Second and perhaps just a little less than one.
Well, McDougall is very important that he marches the team down with the wind in his face, gets some good field position in case they don't get down in the red zone and they're forced to punt once again. You don't want Saskatchewan operating with the short field.
Second and less than a yard. The ball comes loose. It bounced away from Chris Johnstone, and Saskatchewan's Dan Rashovich has recovered. So Saskatchewan gets a break. Now can they capitalize?
Dan Rasevich, a long-time staple. You see some confusion in the backfield with Johnstone and McDougall. McDougall was waiting on Johnstone. Saskatchewan got the penetration. But Dan Rasevich, a long-time staple of the Green Riders, starting now at the Sam linebacker position with the big turnover.
He came to the Riders in the dispersal draft of the old Montreal Alouettes in 1987. Burgess fakes the reverse to Narcisse, now swings it out to Narcisse, and Narcisse will get just about 3 yards. The Riders lined up and attempted to fool Winnipeg with the same play that produced a first down on the previous drive.
Well, that's one of those plays that take a long time to develop, a lot of misdirection, and you bring Narcisse all the way across the field. What Tommy Burgess actually wanted to do was go downfield to Joey Yock, who had gotten behind the secondary, but the rush had gotten up in his face, and he had to dump it off to Narcisse.
Burgess has now completed 5 of 7 passes since taking over from Warren Jones. Narcisse makes the catch on the sidelines, and Jefferson hauls him down, but not before Saskatchewan gets another first down.
Watching Donald Narcisse is almost like watching a clinic. He runs such precision routes. Jefferson just doesn't have a chance. He is trying to recover and get there, but he's always a stride too late working against Narcisse this afternoon.
7 passes for 70 yards this afternoon for Donald Narcisse. First and 10 Saskatchewan. The ball is at the Winnipeg 30. Dumped off to Walters, and Walters will be fortunate to pick up much more than about a yard. Walters came into the ball game in the first quarter of this football game, taking over from Darren Joseph, who went down with an injury, and he's played well, this Simon Fraser graduate.
He has, Don, but just with under 5 minutes to go here in the third quarter, Saskatchewan desperately needs to punch it into the end zone once again. They need to get all the points they can here in the third quarter with the wind at their back.
And obviously, as Darren Joseph looks on, he's not going to be back this afternoon. Burgess looks to the end zone for Narcisse. He makes the catch. What a grab! Oh, that is a highlight type catch for Donald Narcisse, his second touchdown of the day.
You're talking about turning a defensive back inside out, undressing him. Donald Narcisse did it all on that play. Watch the acrobaticness of Donald Narcisse as he leaps high into the air, pirouettes, comes down with the reception. Great concentration, excellent throw by Tommy Burgess.
And now Donald Narcisse has 8 receptions for 127 yards, and he also has 2 touchdowns. And for the first time this afternoon, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have the lead, but what an afternoon it's been for Donald Narcisse, equaling a league record for consecutive games catching a pass, and 2 touchdowns of the Riders in front in the third quarter.
Everybody at Taylor Field next week.
David Ridgway is nicknamed Robo Kicker. Maybe they should nickname this guy Robo Catcher.
Donald Narcisse has actually put on a clinic this afternoon, Don. He has done all you can ask. I mean, not only did he tie a record, but he has caught everything thrown in this direction this afternoon.
But I'm going to have to take 30 yards away from him. His catch was for 27 yards, and he now has 97 in total on his 8 receptions. Shannon Baker on the kickoff return gets it back to the 40-yard line. The Riders capitalizing quickly on the Chris Johnstone fumble.
Don, you talk about taking the yardage away, and that's about all you can take away about this miraculous catch. You know, you look at the end of the catch, but what was so miraculous about it? He was staring right back into the sunshine. He had that bright glare right in his eyes, and the concentration and the excellent pass from quarterback Tommy Burgess, who is celebrating, adding to his CFL all-time statistics.
The Bombers have made a quarterbacking change. Sean Moore is going to take over, replacing Kevin McDougall. First and 10, the ball is at the 39-yard line. The hitch screen to Holland, but the Riders were prepared for it. Terrell Ulmer came up to make the initial contact, and then Bobby Jurison came over to finish the job.
After 10 years, 10 seasons in the CFL, Bobby's still getting getting the job done. Kevin McDougal on the sideline right there wondering what has gone wrong, why he's been pulled out of the game. He really hasn't done anything to hurt himself, but Cal Murphy felt that a switch at quarterback right now maybe gives some more spark to his offense.
Virginia product Sean Moore played 6 games with Ottawa prior to coming to Winnipeg on the 7th of August. He's under pressure, gets away from Ulmer, but Ulmer gets another opportunity. The ball comes loose. And Saskatchewan has got it. Ron Getz comes up with the football. Talk about perseverance. Terrell Ulmer had the initial shot at Sean Moore, missed him, came back, and in the confusion, stripped him of the football, and the Roughriders will try and capitalize again.
Don, this is where the Riders had all of their success last week. They blitzed Sean Moore, knowing that he was more willing to, that he would panic quicker than what McDougal would. That time, the ball got away. Ulmer with his persistent pressure and gets hustling to the football once again. The Riders have the ball in great field position, operating at the 21.
Saskatchewan leading 21-15. Walters takes it inside the 20-yard line.
When you look at the Saskatchewan possessions here in the third quarter, they've been operating on this side of midfield for all of the third quarter. And when you're operating on a short field, your offense must be able to get you points on the scoreboard. And they've come up with 2 majors and trying to pick up a third here in the third quarter.
Narcisse lines up wide to the left. Pass into the end zone for Walters. He can't hang on. He got turned around, and he may have had some problems looking back into the sun.
An opportunity lost by the Riders offense, but a great effort by Walters trying to adjust to that ball. You could see him fighting it just at the end as he's trying to do that 360, and the ball goes right off of his fingertips. Tommy Burgess laid one out. Maybe the young running back, not accustomed to going that deep, stopped a little too soon on his route.
David Ridgway is 50% this afternoon. He will now try to give the Riders an 8-point lead from 26 yards, make that a 9-point lead from 26 yards out, and he puts it through with 1:49 remaining in the third quarter. 24-15 Saskatchewan leads.
Don, you know, one of the things that coaches hate about these back-to-back series when you play each other in each home weekend is that when you lose the first game, it's very hard to sweep the series, and that's what Cal was faced with this afternoon.
Sean Moore is going to continue at quarterback. We were wondering why the change was made. Apparently McDougal jammed his thumb. You see the ice bag on it. It may have been in that messy exchange on the handoff to Chris Johnstone where he fumbled the ball.
And I do think that's where it occurred, Don. This is the first time we've got word of it, but Sean Moore is in, and it's going to be his game to finish.
Quarterback draw with Sean Moore. He's not nearly as fleet of foot as Kevin McDougal, but will get 8 yards.
But he is probably the stronger arm of the 2 quarterbacks, and with 1:22 remaining here in the third, he probably has more ability to throw the ball down the field in this type of situation.
Moore was a backup in Denver and Arizona. Reggie Slack, the other quarterback, dressed this afternoon for Winnipeg. In his second tour of duty with the Bombers, he's also been with Toronto and Hamilton and Birmingham. A miscue as Bryant wasn't expecting the ball, and the Riders get it again. Ron Getz pounces on it down at the 20-yard line. Whoa, the roof has fallen in on Winnipeg in this third quarter.
Blaze Bryant seemed to be the only player wearing blue on the field that didn't understand what the play call was. He gave with the read belly inside to Chris Johnstone, pulled the ball out, came down the line. Bryant was watching Moore pitch. Ron Getz hustling once again. Big turnover for the Roughriders.
Cal Murphy was lamenting the mistakes last week at Taylor Field. He'll have even more to be concerned about with the miscues in this third quarter that have the Saskatchewan Roughriders in a 9-point lead and threatening to score more. Tom Burgess is hit hard as he tries to cut back inside. It looks as though the ball came loose. And they continue to battle for it, but
Burgess held onto the ball. We got a scuffle. K.D. Williams came in a little late and giving Burgess a shoulder while he was down on the ground, and one of the offensive linemen took some exception to that, and we got flags flying all over the field.
Ken Lazarick will sort things out. Sean Moore and Blaze Bryant obviously were not on the same page on the previous play.
Well, we get a look at it here on that pitch as he comes down on the belly series. He's pitching the ball. Blaze Bryant is standing there watching the play. Ron Getz hustling, picks up the loose ball. Get a look at it once again. Great break for the Saskatchewan Roughriders to keep the ball in great field position for an opportunity to score once more with 24 seconds to go here in the third quarter.
Unnecessary roughness against the Saskatchewan Roughriders brings the ball back to the 35-yard line with 20 seconds remaining in the third quarter.
I always thought that football was a physical game, and every time these players have gotten a little physical out there, the officials have felt the need to throw a flag.
Burgess to Elgard, and Elgard is going to be very close to a first down on what should be the final play of the third quarter.
And if he doesn't have it, Don, if you're Saskatchewan, you have to gamble because you're going to change ends of the field, and you want to have an opportunity to get more points because the Bombers are going to have the wind at their back the entire fourth quarter.
The second catch for Ray Elgard. He is now just too shy of reaching a milestone in his CFL career of 800 receptions. That's the end of the third quarter. The Riders lead them by 9. As the teams were changing ends, Winnipeg starting quarterback Kevin McDougall took the ice bag off and took some throws with Reggie Slack. And I'm sure Mike Kelly is quite pleased that his starter is going to be going back into the football game. He's the offensive coordinator for the Blue Bombers.
Well, he scripted a wonderful game plan for his young quarterback, not putting him in any situations where he had too many plays to work with. He reduced down the play package, gave him a comfortable package that he could work with, and he's been executing it very well.
Tom Burgess now on third and a couple. Gives the ball to Walters, and this is going to be close. The Winnipeg players think they stopped him short of a first down. And if they have, this could be a big play for the Bombers.
Well, from where the officials are standing, I'm going to have to agree with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right here because they did not get a favorable spot, and that is Saskatchewan, on that football.
The opening play of the fourth quarter with Saskatchewan leading 24-15. Tom Burgess watches closely, and the reaction of the Winnipeg players tells you that the Roughriders came up short, and Winnipeg will take over.
When you have a 330-pound offensive tackle, you have to be able to get a yard. He's driving off Paul Randolph. He did his job, but the rest of the Saskatchewan Roughriders need to be able to step up on the line of scrimmage and get those blocks. Great defensive stand by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Payne 6'7" and about 335 pounds. The Roughriders would like to see him lose a few pounds and get a little closer to the 300-pound mark.
Well, he lost Paul Randolph on that block. He just annihilated him, and that's what you call a drive block. He just drove him out of the play, but the rest of the offensive linemen couldn't get the job done.
Kevin McDougall back in at quarterback. From the 11, his first pass and returning goes to Gerald Wilcox, and this will be close to a first down.
Don, you talked earlier about the coaching staff loving Kevin McDougall's quick release, and it was evident on that throw to Wilcox as we see the stats from the first three quarters right there. And we see it's quite even at this point in the game, but the 4 turnovers for the Bombers have left them in a deficit of 9 points going into the fourth quarter.
7 100-yard receiving games last year for Gerald Wilcox. None so far this year. Intended for Wilcox. He's got it.
the Gerald Wilcox we have come to know in the past 2 seasons here in Winnipeg. Getting behind Joseph, running a straight fly route. Van Bellingham not able to get over from his free safety. McDougall laying it out perfectly at the 49-yard line for the Bombers.
42 yards, and Gerald Wilcox now has 90 for the game. This time it's Fred Ward, and Ward gets to the outside. Forced out of bounds by Aaron Ruffin, but not before he got to the 9-yard line.
The poise of a Kevin McDougall not being flooded. Watch the deep crossing route. He has to wait for his receiver to come across as he looked off the coverage. Ward on that crossing route able to pick the ball up on the sideline and get it down inside the 10. Bombers threatening once again. But the poise of a Kevin McDougall has been the key.
Well, the coaching staff was saying that he has learned very quickly where the soft spots are in the defense. He went through a crash course this week. There's the pass into the end zone. He was looking again for Fred Ward. It's incomplete. It will be 2nd and goal from the 9.
He had a wide open Fred Ward also on the play, Don. Just put too much on the ball.
In talking to Kevin McDougall, he's very cognizant of the fact that Tom Clements was a star here, and he feels a bit of a challenge to equal the performance of his Notre Dame mentor.
Well, I don't think that he's going to have many critics this afternoon saying that he hasn't turned in a fine performance in his first game as a CFL starter.
McDougall drops back into the shotgun formation. He's going to try and run for the touchdown. He's got it. You know, you talk about starting quarterbacks and backups. There seems to be an entirely different bit of enthusiasm when McDougall is at the controls.
Well, McDougall has that poise and that presence. That's one of the intangibles that certain quarterbacks can bring to the huddle, is that confidence level, and it just exudes with his teammates, and you've seen that with McDougall at the helm.
Troy Westbrook with the point after, and we've got a 2-point ball game at Winnipeg Stadium with 12 minutes and 12 seconds remaining in the 4th quarter. Through training camp and the first 10 games of the season, the Bombers have been looking for a replacement for the departed Matt Dunnigan. Kevin McDougall is the man who may be at the controls the rest of the season.
Well, Kevin McDougall led that touchdown march, but the first 3 plays of that drive, it started at the 11-yard line. 90 yards on 3 passes was the key, Don. They ran the ball so successfully in the first half, it had Saskatchewan playing back on its heels here in the second.
And the big pass play was the 42-yard strike to Gerald Wilcox. Kickoff return with Aaron Ruffin fighting his way all the way to the 42-yard line. He wasn't used as a returner last week because he has a cast on his hand, but he is being pressed back into return duty this week against Winnipeg in the return engagement at Winnipeg Stadium. A 38-yard run back for Aaron Ruffin.
Don, we're witnessing an old-fashioned prairie brawl out here this afternoon.
And at the end of the play, there was a face mask violation against Winnipeg that will add to Saskatchewan's field position.
And it was the guy who scored Winnipeg's first touchdown, Troy Westwood, coming in with that face mask.
It was all Winnipeg in the opening quarter, with Westwood scoring the touchdown, Saskatchewan conceding a couple of safeties. The third quarter was all Saskatchewan. Penalty flag as Walters carries and picks up a couple of yards.
Going to get a face mask versus Winnipeg as Walters was trying to creep through that hole. Looked like one of those hands went up and got in that face gear.
It was 15-4 for Winnipeg at halftime. Donald Narcisse put on a bit of a catching clinic in the third quarter with 2 touchdown receptions. The Riders were quick to capitalize on Winnipeg turnovers as they assumed a 24-15 lead But then with Kevin McDougall returning to the controls, the Bombers bounce back and are within 2 points. But Saskatchewan is in scoring position. Another face mask violation, the second consecutive against the Blue Bombers, gives Saskatchewan a first down at the Winnipeg 37. And there's another penalty flag as Walters drives inside for a couple of yards.
We're going to get Pete Short, the right offensive tackle, with a little quick jump there, and it's going to cost Saskatchewan 5. Number 65.
As we've mentioned a couple of times, the first import offensive lineman for Saskatchewan since Don Swafford played in 1983.
You know, I think they gave him the wrong last name. His last name is Short. This guy stands 6'7".
Legal procedure, Saskatchewan, number 15, 5-yard penalty, first down and goal.
Saskatchewan called for a legal procedure.
An illegal procedure call against Pete Shorts, who earlier this year was with both San Antonio and Memphis.
The Saskatchewan had themselves moving, and those penalties will always come back and haunt you. Now Tommy Burgess is his first with the...
Elgard's open. Only Daryl Sampson to beat, and Elgard is taken down at the 5-yard line. 37 yards on the pass to Ray Elgard, his third catch of the day.
Most consistent pass receiver in CFL history. Ray Elgard has come on in the last 2 games, the first 2 touchdowns last week at Taylor Field, and now the big play when Saskatchewan needed it on 1st and 15 to get the ball down inside the red zone at the 5-yard line.
First and goal, Saskatchewan. Narcisse and Farthing go wide to the left. Joey York lines up wide right. Handoff goes to Walters. He spins off 1 and then is stopped at the 1. He broke away from Johnson, who made the first contact with him.
Now, Don, this would be a great plus for Saskatchewan if they can score going in with the wind in their face, as we see Walters with the handoff, because in the first quarter when they were facing the wind, they could not muster any points, and they had to give up a couple of safeties to Winnipeg and put Winnipeg out to that 10-point lead in the first quarter. Colin Scribner's down.
Is the injured player. Hasn't been a great weekend for the Scribner clan because his brother, Glenn, who plays for the BC Lions, suffered a suspected broken arm yesterday in the 43-24 BC win over Ottawa. As a matter of fact, that game really took its toll on the BC Lions. Sean Millington, Darren Flutie, Bob Gordon, and Glenn Scribner all went out of the lineup.
And this was a team that really couldn't afford a lot of injuries at this point of the season.
24-22, Saskatchewan leads, threatening to add. Well, Colin Scribner was able to get off and get up and run off the field. He is indicating that his right knee may have given way just a little, but it doesn't appear to be too serious a problem.
Don, that's always a great sign when you see a player comes off under his own power, and you know that the injury really is not that serious.
Oh, what we got?
Second and goal, Saskatchewan from the 1-yard line. Burgess will keep himself. Still waiting for a signal. The Rider players think he got in, but there's been no indication that he broke the plane, and it will be 3rd and goal for the Riders.
Well, you know, one of the things that you say is only the ball needs to break the plane. We're going to see the surge by the Saskatchewan offensive line, and watch the ball and Tommy Burgess. That's the key. But Tommy Burgess was in the end zone. He had broke the plane. He did not get the touchdown.
So it's 3rd and goal from the 1. Burgess keeps. Still no signal. Did they stop him? The Bomber players think they have. York thinks it's a touchdown.
Well, this is going to be a very curious call right here, because Tommy Burgess broke the plane once again. Winnipeg came out with the football, and they're going to say that he fumbled. Twice, Saskatchewan was denied after Tommy Burgess broke the plane of the inline, and that's all that's required to score a touchdown is you break the plane of the inline, and the officials didn't call it that way.
Well, Burgess comes off the field shaking his head. He and his teammates definitely thought he had reached the end zone. There's also a penalty call in the play. Ray Elgard was really upset.
Saskatchewan number 81, 10-yard penalty. First down.
And Elgard draws the objectionable conduct penalty that takes the Winnipeg Blue Bombers out to the 11-yard line.
I can sympathize with Ray's plight on that play because twice he felt that his quarterback had gotten into the end zone, and the replay had indicated that Tommy had broke the plane, but the official sitting right on top of the play did not make the call, did not raise up the arms. Saskatchewan loses the ball on downs.
The last two times the Riders have been inside the 25-yard line, they have turned the ball over on downs. Perhaps none more crucial than the third down gamble that misfired at the 1. This is Johnstone. He puts his head down and barges up to about the 22. That should be a first down Winnipeg.
Chris Johnstone has been a bull this afternoon for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. His 6th carry of the game has him up at 41 yards. He only had, coming into this game, 76 yards on the season. So he's had an outstanding afternoon, and Van Bellingham has to come up from the free safety to make the stop.
8:11 remaining. Saskatchewan leading 24-22. McDougall looks deep for Fred Ward. Incomplete. Van Bellingham, the safety, was playing deep, and there was no opportunity for Ward to catch up with that long throw from rookie quarterback Kevin McDougall.
Well, that's the job of the free safety, is not allow the deepest receiver to get behind him, and Van Bellingham did an excellent job on that play. But McDougall, you have to be very impressed with the poise of this young man to sit there in the pocket, allowing his receiver the time to go deep and deliver the pass.
Well, Saskatchewan and Winnipeg have both been able to take advantage of the wind, and the Bombers have it in this fourth quarter. Incomplete, intended for Gerald Wilcox. He's complaining that he was bumped by the safety Van Bellingham, and Wilcox is going down to plead his case, but there was no penalty flag.
Van Bellingham has been involved in the last 3 plays for the Riders, and that's how you play free safety. The timing was perfect. Just as the ball arrived, Van Bellingham arrived with the shoulder in the rib cage of Wilcox, breaking him away from the ball. You can see as the ball is over his head, there was no chance of catching the ball, but great break on the ball by Van Bellingham.
Good friend of Michael Smith, the Canadian decathlete who hopes to harvest a medal at next summer's Olympic Games in Atlanta.
Picked up a silver in the World Track and Field Championship that you covered over in Sweden, Don.
He performed very well. It looks as though Michael Smith is definitely back. And Dave Van Bellingham has been a leader for Saskatchewan defensively this afternoon. Almer takes the third down punt and brings it back to the 50-yard line. A 6-yard return after that booming kick by Bob Cameron.
As we get a look at Dale Lyles here as he comes down on this punt coverage. The true essence of football is pain and punishment. And watch Dale Lyles. He just lowers the boom on Almer on that punt return. That's what you come to a football game about. This is not a tennis match where you play with finesse.
Dale Lyles in his 3rd year with the Blue Bombers, signing as a free agent back in 1993. The crowd very alive now in this fourth quarter with the Bombers within 2. Saskatchewan 1st and 10. The give is to Walters. Walters following his lead, blocking well, and will be close to a first down.
Walters has been impressive all afternoon, but the key in having a successful running game is the downfield blocking that you get from your receivers. We've seen Ray Elgard catch the football, but here you see Ray Elgard blocking on Greg Clark, one of the better open field tacklers, allowing Walters to pick up 9 yards on first down.
2nd and 1 Saskatchewan from the Winnipeg 50-yard line. Burgess keeps and drives straight ahead and picks up the yard that he was unable to get down at the goal line on 2 tries.
Well, that was the call. We saw it differently, but that was the call. But Tommy Burgess, as you said, able to keep the drive alive. And once again, you can't overstress the importance of Saskatchewan scoring going into the win.
2 touchdown passes by Burgess, both into the hands of Donald Narcisse.
And you got to take your hat off to his offensive line because they got the job done that time.
Very quickly, Burgess was forced to release with Dal Lyles pressuring. Burgess, with those 2 touchdown passes, now has 187 in his career, breaking out of a 6th place tie with Russ Jackson in that category.
Well, he's done that with 3 different teams, but Tommy Burgess actually throws this one away. He sees Dale Lyles coming in, and he just throws this one into the ground because he sees the coverage coming up on Donald Narcisse, and instead of taking the loss as a smart veteran, he just throws that one away.
2nd and 10, Saskatchewan. The ball is at the Winnipeg 48-yard line. Quickly over the middle, incomplete. It was intended for Dan Farthing, the slot back. And the Bomber defense has done its job again as Winnipeg will get the ball back with 5:16 remaining.
Normally in this position on a calm day without the wind blowing in your face, you would bring in your field goal team. But with this strong headwind that Saskatchewan is facing, Brett Maddich has to come into the game and try to pin Winnipeg down.
I believe this is the first time that Maddich has punted into the wind. In the opening quarter, he conceded a couple of safety touches rather than punt from deep in his own zone.
Well, this one's a little too far to be conceding a safety, but he's going to try to keep this one nice and low, Don.
He gets an excellent kick away. Baker waits for it down at the 10-yard line. Good downfield coverage as Dan Rashovich is able to make the tackle with some help from Joey Yock.
Dan Rashovich has been a steady player in his entire career on specialty teams. He's been highly touted for his specialty team skills. Now he's a starter on defense, doing extra duty, but still hustling here late in the 4th quarter.
4:44 the time remaining here at Winnipeg Stadium. The Bombers trying to bounce back after the 56-4 humiliation last Sunday at Taylor Field in Regina. Kevin McDougall for Holland, and he can't hang on. Brian Randall, the cornerback, was defending against him.
Even though that ball felt incomplete, I'm impressed with McDougall. Look at the releases. He squares those shoulders, delivers a perfect strike to Holland. Holland did everything but make the reception, but Randall with an excellent defensive play of getting that left hand in there, stripping Holland of the football.
The Riders with an extra defensive back on 2nd and 10, anticipating a Winnipeg passing play. McDougall throws, and Wilcox has got it. And the spot will give Winnipeg a first down.
Don, I think a lot of the credit is going to have to go back to who you alluded to in the opening for the throwing mechanics of a Kevin McDougall. Tommy Clements, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber quarterback, and McDougall's quarterback coach at the University of Notre Dame did a fine job in tutoring this young man, developing him as a pure passer.
Wilcox now has 102 yards, his first 100-yard receiving game of the season. McDougall with time and throws the pass into the hands of Baker at the 40-yard line. Boy, for a rookie, McDougall is showing a lot of poise.
What Cal Murphy has gotten from McDougall is all that he could ever expect this afternoon. The offensive line is doing a wonderful job, but watch Kevin McDougall as he checks down 1, 2, 3, rolls out, finds his 4th option in the receiving pattern, delivers a strike to Baker, picks up another first down, keeps the ball marching down the field.
You know, a lot of times when quarterbacks are sacked, it's not necessarily the O-line that is breaking down. At times they are not in the right position for the blocking scheme that has been set up.
When you set up, a lot of times you have man protection, you have slide protection, the red-blue turn back. That time they had straight man. McDougall saw the blocking breakdown, stepped outside, bought himself more time, made the completion.
Alan Boyko into the ball game, replacing Gerald Wilcox at slot. Quarterback draw with McDougall, and he carries out to the 49-yard line. 2:58 is the time remaining here at Winnipeg Stadium. The Blue Bombers have the football, but they trail by 2 points.
Just a reminder, right after this football game, in about 15 minutes from now, we'll go to Spruce Meadows, Alberta for the premier show jumping event of the equestrian season, the De Maurier Limited International. Scott Russell, Terry Leibel, and Tom Harrington standing by to bring that to you. Don?
But we still have 2:58 remaining here at Winnipeg Stadium before a crowd of just under 25,000 as the Bombers are looking at 2nd and 2. The ball is at their own 48-yard line. McDougall will keep, and it took a moment or two, but he finally struggled across the 50 for another Winnipeg first down.
This young man has taken complete command of this offense this afternoon. He has the players playing at the level that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been accustomed to playing over the years. The offensive line is getting off the ball, getting that surge, allowing them to pick up the short yardage first down. And Chris Walby has done a fine job coming back from that bicep injury of sticking through this entire contest.
Winnipeg 1st and 10. The Bombers at their own 52. McDougall looking for Holland on the sidelines, and that's 2 that Holland should have caught.
2 very catchable balls that Holland should have caught. And McDougall is doing all he can to buy time to allow his receivers to get into the open. Once again, he was let down by Holland.
We remind you that immediately after this football game, we'll be going to Spruce Meadows.
You'll get a shot of Bobby Jerson laying a shot on Kevin McDougall. The key to that is that Bobby Jerson has left his feet, so he cannot stop his flight towards the quarterback.
2nd and 10. Wilcox has a first down, taking it to the 42. The Canadian Player of the Year in 1994 for Winnipeg, almost a non-factor so far in 95 until today.
I think Kevin McDougall might be on Gerald Wilcox's dinner list. Taking him out for a meal is well deserved for the performance that he's allowed Gerald Wilcox to put on this afternoon. He hasn't seen this many balls in a game all year, and Gerald has been up for the task, making great receptions.
Winnipeg 1st and 10 from the 41. The handoff to Blaze Bryant. And the Winnipeg tailback atones for a miscue in the 3rd quarter that led to a Saskatchewan score.
Don, what's been so important about this drive for Winnipeg is that it's been a time-consuming drive. There's been precision passing by McDougall, timely running here with Bryant carrying the ball, but the time is the enemy right now of the Saskatchewan Roughriders with 1:40 to go in the game.
Winnipeg trailing by 2, but certainly well within the field goal range of Troy Westwood. Dumped off quickly inside, intended for Wilcox. There's a penalty flag.
You know, in the past 2 games we've done, Don, we've seen some fine young players in the CFL. Jermaine Younger, the linebacker in Toronto last weekend. Kevin McDougall, the fine young quarterback in Winnipeg.
Saskatchewan number 17, 5-yard penalty, first down repeated.
Van Bellingham, the free safety. Normally when he's up on the line of scrimmage, you have him coming with a safety blitz. That time he was caught. Troy Westwood looking on eagerly for an opportunity to come onto the field. He's had a big day on all sides, penalties and touchdowns.
Well, he's won games for Winnipeg with his kicking ability, but the play he'll talk about, I'm sure, is the touchdown he scored in the 1st quarter. Johnstone, the ball carrier, on 1st and 5, he got down to the 20-yard line, and he was making sure that he had both arms securely around the football.
And Don, over time, that story will loom larger and larger, how he scored that touchdown and how many players he had to make miss. But Troy Westwood has had an outstanding game this afternoon for the Bombers, and it could all come down to a kick by Troy Westwood.
1:18 the time remaining. 2nd and 3, Winnipeg. Johnstone, the ball carrier, comes loose. Who's got it?
Winnipeg's going to get it back. They retain the football.
Whoa, So Winnipeg got a break there. That's the second time that Winnipeg is miscued on a similar play. McDougall handing off in close quarters to Johnstone.
They were very fortunate that time, and McDougall was able to go in and pick up his own fumble. Ron Getz had a clear shot of it, but McDougall able to get in underneath that pile of green wave and white jerseys and recover the loose ball to give Westwood a chance at a game-winning field goal attempt.
1:06 the time remaining. Mark said at the start of our telecast that Winnipeg was looking for a golden boy to play quarterback, and they may have found one from under the Golden Dome at Notre Dame.
Well, they're going to be very pleased with the productivity this afternoon of Kevin McDougall. He has done a lot of positive things for this offense. It's been a great addition for this team.
Westwood with an opportunity to put Winnipeg in front by 1. The kick is up. It's good. That his team would be able to bounce back after the 56-4 whipping. And with Troy Westwood's field goal with 1:03 remaining, the Bombers have a 1-point lead.
Well, there's a happy young man in Troy Westwood who scored the first touchdown this afternoon for Winnipeg and has possibly scored the game-winning points.
Burgess goes deep down the sidelines, intended for Narcisse. There's a penalty flag. It was a little late coming, but there was a push, it appeared, over on the far side by Jaron Bolden.
It was late coming, but it came after the second push that Bolden initiated on Narcisse, because the first one he drove him out of bounds.
There's no infraction on the play. Ball was uncatchable. Incomplete. Second down.
They're ruling that the pass could not be caught.
Well, the ball was uncatchable, but Bolden twice drove Narcisse out of bounds while the ball was in flight. Generally, once a receiver cannot stay in stride, the ball will become uncatchable.
2nd and 10 Saskatchewan from the 35. 58 seconds remaining in the ball game. Who do you go to in a clutch situation? Ray Elgard, and that is a milestone catch for Ray Elgard. Number 800 of his CFL career.
And what a fine career it has been for Ray Elgard, and he has been able to step up to the plate this afternoon when needed by the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He's come up with 2 big receptions.
From the 46, it's 1st and 10, 45 seconds remaining. Intended for Elgard. Darius Watson came up to break it up.
Very fortunate play for Winnipeg, because they haven't had any pressure on Tommy Burgess, and Ray Elgard came on a crossing route. As you'll see, the offensive line, a nice pocket there for Tommy Burgess, able to deliver a nice crisp pass. Great play by the defensive back.
I would think that Saskatchewan has to get to at least about the 35 to get into the field goal range. Dave Ridgway, and Elgard is going to keep this drive alive, taking it to the 51-yard line.
Darius Watson has his hands full down with probably the most notorious receiver in CFL history as far as being physical on a defensive back. He will find ways to get open. He will beat people up down the field.
From the 51, Burgess looks over the middle. The pass is complete to Boyko, and Boyko gets to the 40-yard line with 26 seconds remaining.
Winnipeg needs to come with a different wrinkle defensively. They're going to have to send some extra pressure on Burgess, possibly blitz 1 or 2 linebackers, because they just haven't got up in his face.
Saskatchewan, I think, needs another first down to get into field goal range. It was intended for Elgard. He had Darius Watson all over him again.
And that time they brought Lyles and Randolph, and Lyles is still down with looks like a cramp possibly, but you have to bring the pressure. Burgess has had the time, and his receivers have been getting open.
Lyles stretching out his right calf muscle. But K.D. Williams is going to come into the ball game as his replacement.
One of the things you get with Williams coming in the game, you get a very fast linebacker, but you also get a linebacker who's been sitting. Is that where you get the veteran Tommy Burgess trying to victimize the Winnipeg defense?
Burgess conferring with the head man, Ray Yock. And what have they decided with 18 seconds remaining? Dal Lyles is still receiving some treatment. Mike Roach issuing some instructions to another of his linebackers, Greg Clark. The Blue Bombers have a number of new players in camp. And the way the team on the field this afternoon has responded, you'd have to think some players are aware that they might be replaced.
Well, that's one of the things, and sometimes players understand when there's new bodies sitting in the wings and they have to find a way to motivate themselves. I think all the Bombers will be very pleased with their productivity this afternoon. There's always places that you try to look to improve your ball club, but I think Coach Cal Murphy, regardless of the outcome of this game, is going to be pleased with what he's seen on the field for 60 minutes this afternoon.
It almost looks as though Lyles might have a knotted muscle. Those can be very painful.
It's been so long since I played, I couldn't tell you what a muscle was like, Don.
18 seconds remaining. The Riders are looking at 2nd and 10 from the 40-yard line.
He's in quite a bit of discomfort coming off the field, and it's been a hard-fought battle. Dale has laid some heavy hits this afternoon out on the field, and this is a man who can walk this afternoon with his head high, knowing that he gave his all in his football game.
The clock will not start until the ball is snapped. K.D. Williams, who came in as the replacement for Dal Lyles, had the football slip through his hands.
That's the place you want to go when you get a replacement player in who hasn't been in the defensive scheme of things. You want to go after him, and Ridgway is going to come on the field to attempt a 47-yard field goal.
David Ridgway is certainly capable of hitting from this distance, but how big a factor will the wind be?
He's got to keep it low, Don. He's got to drive it.
With 14 seconds remaining, Cal Murphy has called a timeout.
What they're discussing on the sideline is they're talking about the shift. That the Saskatchewan offensive line will shift down, trying to draw Winnipeg into that neutral zone and gain an extra 5 yards with kicker Dave Ridgway to try this field goal attempt. And with this stiff wind, that could be the difference.
Winnipeg leads by a single point. Bob Cameron is going to drop back into the end zone along with Troy Westwood. And you might see one of the unique features of the Canadian game on this field goal try by Ridgway should it go wide.
Back on the field for one last effort, trying to pick up a first down.
It looked as though Saskatchewan was attempting to draw Winnipeg offside, but they took too long. They violated the 20-second time clock, and that takes the ball back to the 50-yard line.
Well, that's what the Winnipeg coaching staff was yelling so vigorously about on the sideline. Do not jump. Do not get in the neutral zone. Don't give them the free 5. Now Saskatchewan with one last chance.
And it's a 10-yard penalty because it occurred in the final 3 minutes of the football game on 3rd down. Burgess now looking for someone to throw to. He's being chased by Rush. Rush strips him of the ball. Winnipeg will get it, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to win it. What a job Kelly Rush did of stripping Burgess of the football. Burgess wasn't going to get a first down or be able to throw it anyway, but Rush was able to strip him of it, and he had that intent as he made the tackle.
A young man that has had a lot of off-the-field problems with this organization, but there's never been any question in his playing skills and his talent and his intensity level, and it was very evident on that play because Kelly Rush had to track down Tommy Burgess, and he was out in full flight. Not only did he run him down, but stripped him of the football, and the ball was recovered by the Bombers. Great effort by Kelly Rush and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this afternoon.
Well, as has happened so often in the past in this Winnipeg-Saskatchewan rivalry, the Riders win big at Taylor Field, come back to Winnipeg Stadium, and the Bombers bounce back. After losing 56-4, they win 25-24 this afternoon under the direction of Kevin McDougall, who undoubtedly is going to be a much talked about young man over the next few days in the Manitoba capital.
Well, they have to be very pleased. Watch the shower that Coach Cal Murphy will take at the end of this play here if we'll get a shot of it. We missed it. They got him, though. But a great effort this afternoon by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And as you spoke about young Kevin McDougall, the rookie quarterback out of the University of Notre Dame, I think that Winnipeg might have found their quarterback to carry them through the rest of the season.
Well, he played with a lot of poise, despite the fact this was his first game in a uniform for Winnipeg, and a man that provided some pretty good protection for him up front. Returning to the Winnipeg lineup after missing 4 with an injury is Chris Walby, and he played a standout ball game. You talked about him earlier. So did Gerald Wilcox, his first 100-yard receiving game of the year.
He was the recipient of Kevin McDougall's fine performance this afternoon.
So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win it by a score of 25-24 here at Winnipeg Stadium.